While all eyes in Philadelphia are on the Sixers' number 3 overall selection, it is very important to note that the Sixers do have a second round pick at number 35 overall, and Daryl Morey has been on the record. He wants to get younger, he wants to get more athletic, and the Philadelphia 76ers have the chance to do that with a cheap and affordable contract as well in the second round pick at number 35. And in what is I've vision as a very deep NBA draft, the 76ers have the potential to get a win now, impact ready type of player at the number 35 overall selection. And now that the NBA draft combine has passed us, the dust has settled, reports and mock drafts are coming out more and more every day. And there's one particular player that the Philadelphia 76ers have been linked to a ton at this number 35 overall selection. That is Creighton center Ryan Kalkbrenner, one of the best college basketball players of the past 5 to 6 years. Kalkbrenner, big time player out of Creighton, a 4-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. Yes, you heard that right. 4-time. He was a 5-year player. He used his COVID year this past year, but a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East Conference. This past season at Creighton, his 5th year, averaged 19.2 points per game, 8.7 rebounds per game, 1.5 assists, 2.7 blocks. He was the ultimate rim protector, maybe the best rim protector in all of college basketball these past 5 years, and super efficient. 65.3% from the field and 34.4% from three. He showed the ability and the willingness to be able to step out and shoot the three ball a little bit. And I think that goes to show you that he was willing to develop and expand his game. At the beginning of his career, he wasn't regarded as a player that would even leave the paint. And as we see, very efficient from the field, 65.3%. 34.5% from three, basically. He showed the willingness to be able to step out and shoot the ball, and you're going to need to do that as a big man in today's NBA. You can't just kind of sit there and patrol the paint, but this is a name that has been linked to the Sixers in several mock drafts. You head over to ESPN, the Sixers have him mocked there. You head over to CBS Sports, they have him mocked there. This is a very popular spot, very popular mock draft selection for the Sixers, selecting Ryan Kalkbrenner out of Creighton. If the Philadelphia 76ers did that, I don't know if that's more so an indictment on what they believe in Adem Bona long term, or more so it's just another kind of insurance policy for Joel Embiid. But Kalkbrenner, a very experienced college player, has seen it all at that level. And my kind of comparison to him, I don't know if he's going to have this type of impact right away or ceiling. He might be a poor man's version of him. But like Walker Kessler of the Utah Jazz, who's came in, he's defended the rim, he's been able to step out and shoot threes, and he's had a very successful, beginning to his NBA career. Never going to be an all-star, Hall of Fame type of player, but a very solid, reliable player. Could Ryan Kalkbrenner develop into a Walker Kessler type and be the center post Joel Embiid era? I could see it. I'm not necessarily counting on it and banking on it, but all signs so far are pointing to the Sixers being heavily interested in Ryan Kalkbrenner, and it would make sense to add a guy like this on the roster with a very thin front court, with Joel Embiid and his question marks in the air. Adem Bona had a very nice rookie season, showed some really good flashes, was up and down a little bit. But Ryan Kalkbrenner, I think more of a kind of model of consistency, and he fits, I think, both in the short term and the long term plan. So to go into a little bit more about Ryan Kalkbrenner and the player overall, as we said, a 4-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. He averaged 14 and a half points a game for his 5-year career, 6.8 rebounds, but he really took off over these past few years. 3-time All Big East tournament team, 3-time All Big East player. And the efficiency, I think, speaks for itself on the offensive end. When he comes into the league, he's not going to be a guy counted on like, all right, Kalk, we need you to get 12 to 15 points per game. No, he's more in that ballpark of he's going to rebound the ball, he's going to defend the rim at a really high level, as we saw 2.2 or 2.7, blocks per game this past season at Creighton, and once again a 4-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. Guys like that just don't fall out of bed every day. And I know more and more we see guys leaving early, but this is a seasoned veteran and a guy that makes you feel confident and willingness to be able to go out there and play key minutes, pivotal minutes for this Sixers team in what they're going to have a lot of pressure on them next year. And for what the front court looked like when Joel Embiid was out was a disgrace, was a disaster last year. Andre Drummond sounds like he's going to pick up his option and be back. Who knows what that looks like? That could be easily a buyout at some point, or the Sixers look to ship him off for a second round pick to a team in need of a center. But outside of a few years ago, outside of outside of a few years ago when they had Andre Drummond in his run with the Sixers have never had a reliable backup behind Embiid. You see when he comes off the floor, it's a steep drop off, and it will be when your best player leaves the floor. But they need to have a more kind of reliable presence, and I don't think it's that. Obviously it's a steep drop off on the offensive end, talent wise, everything. But I don't think the team will completely fall apart because of what Ryan Kalkbrenner offers at the rim, in terms of his defense. The guards are a bit of a liability on this team on the defensive end of the floor, but you got a guy patrolling the paint like Ryan Kalkbrenner back there that makes up for a lot of those deficiencies, and I think could help the Sixers kind of plus minus and rating overall when Joel Embiid walks off the floor. Once again, in terms of his offensive game, you're not going to be counting on him to average you 12 to 15 points per game anytime, probably in his career, at least anytime soon. But for him to kind of go in there, know his role right away, and have this growing offensive game still, I think he showed more and more touch in the paint, and also the ability and the willingness to step out and shoot the three ball a little bit. It's certainly going to be a player that the Sixers have their eyes on, and I would more than hope so bring in for some workouts and be able to kind of poke his brain and find out a little bit more about him, get a closer glimpse of this shooting stroke, see how he looks in these workout settings. But Ryan Kalkbrenner is a guy that has been heavily linked to the Sixers. All signs are pointing to the Sixers potentially considering picking him. But if Ryan Kalkbrenner is not a player and the Sixers are more so just in the market for a backup, Kalkbrenner maybe goes late first. There are a few other names according to the big board over at Tankathon and some centers that they could look at. We've talked about Malawach and Derek Queen as potential first-round picks for the Sixers. I'm not so familiar, to be honest with you, with the international guy here at 20. But Danny Wolf, a player who's really seen his name rise, a super fun playmaker, totally different player from Kalkbrenner. Wolf, much more of an offensive guy, able to distribute the ball. You see that 4.2 assists per game, 11.5 rebounds per game. Ryan Kalkbrenner, on the other hand, much more defensive-oriented right now. Maxine Reynon is another guy, too, I think that could interest the Sixers here, potentially at that number 30. 35 overall pick, similar to Kalkbrenner in size and measurables, and age as well, I think is a big thing to look at. But right now, a much more refined kind of offensive player, and I think a little bit more creative in that kind of Danny Wolf type of area more so than Kalkbrenner. Kalkbrenner, you're getting a defensive-minded player first and foremost. Reynaud and Danny Wolf, if those are more players in the ballpark, and I think Danny Wolf is going to be way gone by the Sixers by the time the Sixers pick at 35. Reynaud is a little bit more of a poor man's version of him, and a little bit more of an athletic version of him as well. An interesting prospect. Make sure to go out and check out some of his highlight tapes and see what he brings to the table in his own regard. But Daryl Morey has said, this is the goal of the offseason is to get younger and more athletic, and I think when you're looking to add some pieces to the front court as well, we're kind of shying away from the veteran market, and we're going to attack with this rookie class potentially here. Who knows where the Sixers go at 3? It seems like they're a little all over the place right now. Sitting here on May 23rd, I probably slotted at Ace Bailey, 75%. And then a mixture in the next kind of 25% of guys like Trey Johnson, VJ Edgecombe, and Konkinipple. That's what I would probably, if you made me say it right now. So I could certainly see them addressing, if they do go with one of the guards, the front court. Because I do think Adim Bona showed some really good flashes. Is he a long-term 5, though? Are you going to maybe look to play him at the 4 potentially? Remains to be seen. He's a little bit undersized, I think we could say. Kalkbrenner in that 7'2 frame, Reynaud in that 7'1", 7'2 frame. Those are more of your prototypical centers, guys that are going to be able to kind of protect the rim, and right now I really like his ability to play make. But Ryan Kalkbrenner, a name heavily linked to the Sixers right now, and if you're a college basketball fan, you've seen plenty of him over the years. So I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, Ryan Kalkbrenner, a name that is heavily linked to the Sixers. What do you think of him, his potential on this team? I know a lot of you guys are in the comments complaining and calling for bigs over guards. Here we go. Here's a chance to select one. I'm one of the more experienced college players we've seen as a big man over the past 5 to 10 years. A Hall of Fame level Big East player, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. Some pretty wild accomplishments in his career. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time here on Sixers Digest.